Hello. I'm going to continue with opinions and answers to questions that viewers have sent in. If you think I'm saying something incorrectly or you have something to add, please do that in the comments below this video. Can you describe how Thai people interact with each other that is different to Western people? For example, Westerns tend to be in a rush with pretty much everything, whereas the Thai people take time and have more value in social than financial. That's not necessarily true. The Thais are always going at breakneck speed. You can see that in the way they drive. I call it a me first society. It's a Buddhist society. There's low crime, although it does occur. So you always, especially as a tourist, as a Farang walking around, you want to be careful. But you aren't probably going to get mugged. You can walk around at night. We were taking the ferry from Phi Phi Island and going back to Krabi. And I know this kind of embarrassed me. There was a line. We got there 10 minutes before the ferry was going to leave. And most of who's in line are tourists, Farangs. So my daughter went up and talked to the guy that was, we were waiting for them to get ready to let us onto the ferry. And it didn't make any difference whether we were at the end of the line or at the beginning of the line. You're going to get on the ferry. You're going to get to where you want to get on the ferry. It was a big boat. Could have sat anywhere. Anyway, they like to be first. So my daughter went up and talked to the guy, the Thai guy that was controlling the line, and had us, my wife, my daughter, my son, and myself go up in front. We were the first ones in front of all these other people that were already waiting in line. And that kind of embarrassed me, but that is very common here. It's not a problem, that's the way things are. And that's the way the Thais are. They are so, their lifestyle is, especially if they're not making a lot of money, it's so difficult, they fight for everything that they can get. Interacting amongst the Thais, they're very sociable. My wife has a lot of friends here. In fact, we went to a restaurant yesterday. I found it on the internet. I was looking for how to buy mattresses for our new townhome, trying to educate myself here. And they were talking about, it was two people. One was asking the question of where to buy furniture, the other one was answering, and it turned out he had a restaurant. Him and his wife had a restaurant. So it was just a few blocks away, kind of in the area where we go every day to eat. So yesterday we went and found it. It's called Ginny Cafe, Ginny Place. It's a restaurant, guest house. They also do tours. They've been together. It's a U.S. man from Washington State. I don't know his age. And it just happened that the lady he's been married to, they've been together for like 11 or 12 years. I don't know how long they've been married. The lady that he was married to is a longtime friend of my wife. And I was just going there because they had a good review on TripAdvisor. So I thought we'd try a new restaurant. So Ginny Cafe, I am including that in my video that I'm making about what we've had to eat all week. So you'll see that in a week or two whenever I get around to getting the video up on YouTube. Very personable, speaks very good English, about my wife's age, and I assume her husband's about my age. It turned out that my wife and her were good buddies, and really had kind of lost track of each other. Now they're friends on Facebook again. She has that restaurant, and they're building a new resort kind of a place out a ways, about 20 kilometers to the north of Chiang Mai, out beyond Tiger Kingdom. And so far they have a restaurant built. They're building bungalows. They're going to put in a swimming pool. They have a house for themselves on the property, and they're going to make it into a resort, kind of a higher end resort. This is just kind of a backpacker place where she currently has. But very good food, little on the expensive side versus other cafes like it. But it was very clean, and very nice food. So look forward to seeing that in the video. Anyway, and that happens a lot. My wife will be walking down the street, and here's some lady that she used to know, 5 years ago, and they'll exchange phone numbers and Facebook hookups again. And while I'm talking about Facebook, there was a question that maybe I already answered, or one that I read and haven't answered yet. I know. It was a question about, did I know any Thai ladies before I came here? And younger Thais are more technically inclined. And like my younger daughter's very good on internet, on smartphone. Every time my wife gets a problem with her smartphone not working, she'll give it to her younger daughter. Sometimes the older daughter, but usually the younger daughter. My older daughter is always doing selfies. She's like the selfie queen, and her friends, they're always doing selfies, putting them up on Facebook. So the younger ladies, the younger Thais, not just ladies, but the younger Thais do use the internet and more modern technology. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're communicating with the West. They're communicating with themselves in Thai. So the point of this is, and the older ladies, like my wife and her generation, you're not going to find them on the internet. And if you do find them on the internet, they're using Line, they're not using Skype. There's another program similar to Skype, it's called Line, L-I-N-E. And they all seem to use that to communicate if they're further away than a local call. They use their smartphones, so they do a lot of phoning. And they more and more are using Facebook. But again, they're using it, like my wife, she's on Facebook, but she doesn't really do, like my Facebook usage. I'm interested in Bigfoot, Yeti, so I belong to some of the groups on Facebook, and I look at them routinely and sometimes post every day. Every day at least I read it, keep up on what's going on. I'm also interested in UFOs, so to a lesser degree I read a couple of Facebook groups about that. And then post stuff on my own timeline. My wife only looks at photos. She spends hours flipping through photos. And when she finds a photo or a video that she likes, she'll share it onto her timeline. That's all she does. That's all she uses Facebook for. She doesn't know how to message people, necessarily. She doesn't know how to use email. And she doesn't know anything, or shouldn't say anything. She doesn't know a lot about using the web, using websites. So dating sites, you're not going to find as many Thais on dating sites like you do in the West. They just don't do that. And if you do find them, they're going to be younger. And they're going to be maybe not interested in Farangs, they're interested in other Thais. And they're, in the case of younger Thai women, they're not necessarily interested in older Farang men. Anyway, so they're not interested in having pen pals. They would be interested, depending on the lady, they might be interested in somebody that's wants to send them money. But you're probably not going to find romance over the internet without coming to Thailand. If you come to Thailand, you're here, it's fairly easy to find women for a single guy. And in a lot of cases, they don't have the same age phobias that they do in the States, at least. If you're more than 5 years age difference to other ladies you're trying to talk to in the States, they don't give you the time of day, they don't even reply. Here it's not a problem. In the case of my wife, we're 19 and a half years apart. And that's a pretty good fit for me and her, I think. But she's older and I'm older yet. So the younger you are, maybe the closer in age that you would want to be. And that's true not only for Asians, but I think for Eastern Europe and for South America. That holds true. You don't want to have too big an age gap, but it depends on the people. Anyway, you're probably not going to find romance over the internet in Thailand easily, would be my opinion. It's much easier to come here in person and meet someone, and that's fairly easy. There's a lot of women available here, and not all of them that are looking for farangs are looking for them with honest reasons, but they are around. I like to think that I found a good lady, so you should be able to also, but I think you have to come here. You at least have to come here on a short visit, on a holiday, if not to live permanently. Does smoky season cause you any discomfort? Yes. My wife has allergies all the year, and I have been trying to get her to go in to have the skin tests for allergies. I had terrible allergies living in the Bay Area, San Francisco, South Bay, and I used to get terrible headaches. But coming here, I haven't been bothered by sinus stuff, allergy stuff as badly. I do on occasion get bothered, but the smoke for the last month and a half, and right now I'm looking out, oh, you can see the mountains today. So it's smoky, but not like Los Angeles. But it does bother me, and generally more people go to the hospital during smoky season, which is like from end of February until beginning of May, on into May, because they're burning the fields, and this is smoke. And then, you know, they have no pollution laws here, so a lot of these vehicles are just putting out pollution like crazy, and there's no laws, I guess, no laws against open fires, so people barbecue and burn trash and do all kinds of stuff. So yes, there's a lot of pollution here, especially this time of year. I would suggest this time of year, if you're living here at least as a single person, and we may as a couple in the future, take holidays or go somewhere else during this time. Get away from this environment. Get away from the north. It isn't just Chiang Mai. So yes, and my wife went to I did finally get my wife to go to the hospital. We went to Lana Hospital because my older daughter has insurance, and she was having a problem with her knee. She had twisted her knee or something. So she couldn't go to the more expensive, where most farangs go, is Ram or Bangkok Hospital. Anyway, they went to Lana. Lana's a fine hospital. It's just cheaper and mostly Thais that go there. But they just gave my wife more pills and spray for the nose. And the doctor did say, come back in a week if this doesn't help. Well, of course it isn't going to help because she's been taking for a year and a half the over-the-counter pills, and they don't help. They treat the symptoms, not the cause. So I think what my wife needs to do is go in and be treated, be tested for allergies. You know, they put different things under your skin, and then they make up a shot or a prescription for you to guard against or counter the things that you're allergic to. So I really think that that's what she needs to do. So the next time we go to the hospital, I have got her convinced that the next time we go to the hospital, that's what we're going to try to do, not just get pills and spray. Because you can do that going into the pharmacy. They'll give you pills and spray. Has Chiang Mai got a good source of computers, computer parts, electronic components, etc. available? Yes. The malls here are very modern malls. And the stores here, there's, beyond the malls, there's stores where you can go and get, Siam TV is one. They have a lot of TVs and computers. We bought my wife's Acer laptop at Siam TV. It's a little cheaper prices, especially if they're having a sale. We bought one of the smartphones. I think my son's smartphone was there on closeout on the Galaxy S5s. I'm sorry, I had to take a break. My wife had called me. It's about 20 minutes to 5 now. When I got here to Thailand, I just bought one of these simple phones. I figured later on I'd get a smartphone. I mean, I hadn't even had a cell phone until a couple of months before before I was getting ready to come here. I'd always just had a landline previous to that. So, but in any event, when I got to Thailand, I bought one of these cheapy phones, and I think it was maybe 700 or 800 baht for one of these things. They're Samsung, real simple phone, not smart at all, but you can make phone calls. I don't usually call too often anywhere, so I didn't need much, and still don't yet. Probably in the future, when we replace my wife or one of the kids' smartphones with a newer model, I'll take their older phone. But this works okay for me right now. One thing I didn't realize, this is a pay-as-you-go, so every month you're required to put money on the phone. And the minimum amount, you go to 7 and tell them you want to put money on your phone, and they put it in the cash register, give you a receipt with a number, and then there's a procedure you do on the phone to put in the time, increase the time for the amount of money that you've bought. So the minimum, they're like in set amounts. It's 300 baht, 500 baht, something like that. There's a couple of different choices you can do. So I wasn't really paying attention because I wasn't phoning much. I wasn't eating up much of the money. But every month the phone would quit working unless I put more money on it. And what I didn't know is that there's another code. And if you look online for your model of phone and it's not so much the model of phone, but it's the, I think they call it a SIM card, the card that's in it. This is TrueH. My wife has AIS, so 2 different companies that do cell phone stuff. If you look, you can print out all the different codes to make your phone do stuff. And one of them, it costs you 2 baht or 3 baht every time you call. But if you have money in your account, that's what I couldn't figure out. I had like 1,500 baht from having done that for like 6 months. But yet every month they were telling me I had to put more money on in order to use it for the next month. Well, you can, by calling a number, and it costs a few baht every time you call a number, you can extend that 1 month. So I haven't put money on this phone for almost a year because I already had so much on it. And I only reduce the amount of money that I've already put into this thing by 10, 20, 30 baht a month, if that. And most of that's when I'm extending it for 3 months or 6 months into the future, making 3 or 6 calls at a couple of baht per call to do the extension feature. So anyway, be aware of that. Wait till you get to Thailand. If you have a smartphone, you can bring it, and one that you can replace the SIM card. But if you haven't got a smartphone, just come here. They're available everywhere. Anything you want to get within reason. All the computer stuff, all the TV stuff. Like this is a hotel room. We had an older TV, tube type TV, up until about 6 months ago. This is a 40-inch Panasonic, very nice flat screen TV, HD TV. I went and got a cable that goes from my laptop, HDMI out, to the TV, HDMI in, 2 different flavors of plug. I have a Samsung Ultrabook, and so I can play things off the computer onto the TV when it's a flat screen like that, high def. So yes, electronics, just like in the States, and maybe a little better pricing. Lease-wise, not any more expensive, and there's no sales tax. So there might be a VAT though. So on one hand, no sales tax. On the other, like we go to Amway or we go to some of the bigger pharmacies, they'll put a 7% VAT on it. So anyway, simple smartphone, simple phones, cheap. to smartphones, top of the line smartphones you can buy here. And away you go. And in some cases, like with my wife, when we bought her phone, it was on a discount. And when we bought phones for the two younger kids, they were on closeout. They were selling the S6, but they were closing out the S5. And the S5, which is what my wife has, were nice phones, and they were cheaper yet than what we paid for when we bought the one for my wife. So you can also get stuff repaired here. Do you miss anything about living in the U.S.? Driving on the right side of the road, stopping, following the rules while driving. They do have rules here, I think, but they don't always follow them. And that includes driving the wrong way on sidewalks. Where were we? We were stopped somewhere, and somebody was going, and it was a Farang on his motorbike going along the sidewalk the opposite direction. So, you always got to have your head on a swivel here. It's very dangerous. You just got to be careful. So, do you miss anything about living in the U.S.? I don't know. I guess I used to go hiking up in Felton Mountains, up in the mountains near Felton. That was fun. I guess talking to my friends, when I first came here, I have a Magic Jack. With Magic Jack, what you do is you buy the Magic Jack itself, and then and it plugs into your computer. The one that I have is a second generation, and it doesn't need to be plugged into your computer to operate. You can just have it standalone. It has a power supply. You can have it standalone plugged into the phone, and you get a cheapy handset. I just bought a cheap handset, and so it'll sit over there on its own, plugged in to the internet, into Ethernet port, without having a connection to the computer or the computer being on. I don't use it that way. I use it when I need to make a phone call back to the States for the most part. I think the only part that I've used it for so far. I'll plug it into the computer and make the phone call. And generally here at Smith, the internet is fast enough. Sometimes it's kind of poopy. The last 10 days here, the internet's been kind of poopy. I mean, I was trying to watch a video yesterday off of YouTube, and usually YouTube videos, if the other streaming sites don't work where there's movies, at least YouTube has older movies. I like older movies, and that'll usually work okay. And that was also kind of not working very good here. So that has to do with their connection that Smith is using. So whatever company it is that they use now. When I came here a year and a half ago, the first month when I stayed here at Smith, the internet worked really well. I didn't notice any problems. So maybe they've changed carriers, who knows. Anyway, sometimes it doesn't work as good in the year that we've been in this room. So I miss having high-speed internet. And when we get into the townhome, I'm hoping that we don't have DSL. I know the kids have DSL at their apartment where they're living currently. Currently they're in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, kind of a Thai-style apartment. They have DSL, comes over the telephone lines, and it's kind of up and down. It doesn't, when I've taken my laptop over there, it hadn't always worked well. So I'm hoping that we don't have to only have DSL in our new place. I don't know if cable internet is available here. If it is, I would pay the extra money to have it. With DSL, it depends on how far away you are from the telephone hub, the other end of the telephone line. So closer you are to where that is, the better DSL works. And I had DSL in California before I moved in with my mother. And they finally, I mean, in the beginning it was a nightmare, but they did finally get it working pretty reliably for me in California. But when I moved in with my mother in into another city, Santa Clara, we went with cable. It's just so much more reliable having a faster, reliable internet. So I would like to repeat that here if it's possible. I don't know if it is. So I would miss a good internet connection because I get very grumpy when the internet connection doesn't work well. And there's probably other things that I miss, but probably don't really need them. So anyway, back to Magic Jack. Magic Jack, you buy the Magic Jack thing. You get them like in the drugstore. Long's Drugs carries them, I think. I think I bought mine online over the internet. You buy the thing, you get a cheapy handset, you plug it into your computer and you set it up using the computer, and then they'll assign you a number. Now in my case, I pay an extra fee in the beginning. I paid a setup fee, and then I pay extra every month. Every year, you pay on a yearly basis. Every year I pay, I don't know, $20 or something. Magic Jack's pretty cheap for what it is. So I pay a little bit extra to have ported my old telephone number from Santa Clara to the Magic Jack. So when I'm here in Thailand making phone calls back to the States, and when somebody calls me, they're using my old phone number, my original phone number that I've had for almost 10 years now, 8 years anyway, because I lived with my mother in Santa Clara for about 6, maybe longer now. So anyway, so I use my original number. That's handy. And what was the other point I wanted to make? When my friends call me, they're calling my old number in Santa Clara. So they're calling a California number. It's cheaper. It's the same as when I lived in California, put it that way. Only I'm here in Thailand. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. When I receive a phone call, because right now the Magic Jack's in the cupboard, so it isn't plugged in all the time. I'll get an email. Somebody will call me. I'll get an email, and I get an audio file attached to the email that is the message. So if one of my friends calls and say, "Hi, how are you? Give me a call, blah, blah, blah," I get that within a matter of minutes by email if I'm on my computer. Or the next time I am on my computer, I can play the message, I can see who called, and I can set it, drag out the Magic Jack thingy, put it in, call them back if it's the right time of, there's a difference in time. I'm halfway around the world. In the case of Magic Jack, you have to set it up in the U.S., in your location, before you go overseas, or before, if you have a kid overseas, you set it up at home and then you ship it to them overseas, and they can use it